discovering something in a crowded market comes down to trust and knowing someone. And if you're able to do those things through a video, you essentially create a virtual salesperson as a law firm.
Hey everyone, Bo Royal here, co-founder and CEO of Pareto Legal, where we help injury lawyers increase their profits with business strategy, digital advertising, and analytics. You're listening to the Pareto Legal podcast, where we feature world-class attorneys, entrepreneurs, and legal experts. And today I am joined by Dave Feinman, video marketing expert and co-founder of Viral Ideas, a video production and editing agency. In this episode, we'll discuss why law firms shouldn't sleep on the benefits that video marketing offers, how video can help lawyers differentiate themselves, and where to start if your firm has never done anything with video before. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Bo. I'm excited to be here and deep dive this topic that you and I have obsessed over the years.
Yeah, and I think before we get into the questions, the viewers and listeners should know, Dave and I have worked together on several law firm marketing projects now over the last 5 or 6 years. So there's going to be a lot of great real world examples that we'll be able to touch on in this podcast. So I guess starting off, Dave, talk to us about your background. How did you end up doing video production and editing?
Yeah, so the short story is, I've been an entrepreneur for years. I started my first business when I was 16, and I've always had this interest in video. I was the weird kid, in school with that would run around with the camera, and I was always making videos and coming up with these crazy ideas. As I got older, I turned this into a business, and started this after college, and have built it up for the past 9 years, and have kind of battle tested various types of videos. We've made probably at this point close to 15,000 videos over the past 9 years. So have battle tested the strategies of, what works with video production, what works with editing, and, how different companies should use it to do it. And, through you guys, we've actually worked with a lot of law firms too, and have learned a lot hey, what makes a law firm unique, and how do you turn that into video? Because I think it's a little different for law firms. I do have to say, compared to another business, it's a certain playbook I feel like you have to run when you're doing a video as a law firm.
Agreed. So kind of shifting gears with law firms specifically, why do you think firms should be investing in video in 2024?
So I think for starters, discovering something in a crowded market comes down to trust and knowing someone. And if you're able to do those things through a video, you essentially create a virtual salesperson as a law firm. And I think what is often overlooked, especially for lawyers that are super busy and they and their billable hours are really high, they overlook the fact that people out of the gate aren't just going to trust them because they have a fancy title at the end of the name, because they've been to a fancy school. They want to get to know someone before they spend their first dollar with them, because you're asking for a really high price, and the stakes are really, really high when someone is coming to a lawyer. What I found from doing a lot of these campaigns is branding someone online through video. And there's a lot of different videos that I think as a lawyer you have to do, but branding someone online through video is key to that, both initial discovery of someone in a crowded marketplace, and also building that trust when someone's making the decision of what firm to go with. Because it is a crowded market. Everything essentially is a crowded market in 2024, and you have to stand out from all that noise.
Right. And so realizing how crowded and competitive the legal industry is, can you talk about how video can help firms kind of stand out and establish a unique brand identity?
So I'm curious, I'll just speak to specific examples. We work with this one law firm together, and what we found is that creating and branding the attorneys as experts, and kind of making them their own essentially reality. I don't want to call it reality TV because it's really not that, but it's making them their own brand online has really helped this one law firm explode in terms of their brand, because someone's coming to them with something very personal. They're a personal injury firm, and they're able to make themselves stand out as compassionate attorneys who are really going to get the job done for you. When someone gets further along in the process, they're seeing testimonials of people that have succeeded with them. So they build that trust factor. And then if, they have 1,000,001 questions about, how the case works, they have a whole Q&A series they can go watch from the specific attorney that answers, 35 questions that they might have through the process. And, maybe you could speak to this a little bit, but once the videos are created through digital advertising, you're showing them the video at exactly the right time that they need to see it in their sales journey for deciding on that particular law firm.
Yeah, I think there's so much power in specifically like retargeting with video. If someone has been to your website and they've engaged with some of your content, but they haven't necessarily contacted you yet, using video to re-engage with them is incredibly effective, because that video content could talk about, like you mentioned, Dave, the different attorneys at the firm, their backgrounds, their practice areas, so on and so forth. But not only that kind of like, technical stuff, you can kind of actually learn about the attorney that you would be working with, right? Like, what's their background? What's their personality like? What makes them tick? What gets them up in the morning, and why are they passionate about the law, right? So I think that's really important. And then the other thing I'll say too is, as we've mentioned, the legal industry is super competitive, and there's a lot of like big box national law firms that are competing in these, various different markets, all different cities, suburbs, rural areas, like just across the US. And I think video can really help, the more local firms stand out versus someone like, well, I'm just going to mention their name, Morgan & Morgan. They're everywhere. To be able to, serve a video and say, hey, I am so-and-so attorney. I serve this market and this market exclusively. I grew up here. I live here. I love this area. And, I'm just right down the street from you. I think that is a huge way for firms to differentiate themselves if executed properly, right? So it's not just creating the video. You also have to have a way to distribute that content consistently. That's why I mentioned retargeting, specifically on like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, being able to serve ads 24/7, 365 to people that have engaged with your content, I think is really, really valuable. But awesome. Yeah, so we talked about differentiation. So Dave, I know you look at tons of different businesses. I know that you've worked with a bunch of different law firms. Again, keeping it specific to law firms and lawyers, what common mistakes are you seeing firms and lawyers make with their video marketing?
So I think the biggest mistake that I see is trying to bring their old school television ads over to the internet. And this is like specific to lawyers. For some reason, this is the largest mistake they make. And a lot of them are great ads and they work really well on television and they've gotten them a lot of business, and they probably will still get them a lot of business as they run them on television. But to bring that over to the internet, it's a different story. You're talking about an entirely different medium that you have to produce for, and you have to really dial in the personalization for an ad for the internet, because you're showing that ad to a specific audience in a specific niche, and you want that, you want that ad or you want that interaction to be great. Or even on the website, when someone reaches your website, they're in a different stage that they were when they were watching your television ad. So you want your video that when they reach your site to be, more hyper personal. Maybe it's also a little bit longer than 30 seconds. Maybe it's 2 minutes, because you want to increase the amount of time that people are interacting with you on your web page. So that's one of the largest mistakes that I've seen time and time again. I see you nodding your head too, because I feel like this is one that we've both like come in touch with, where I've gotten old footage from someone who's like, hey, like, can you just repurpose my television ad that is, rightfully so, they spent a lot of money on it. But can you repurpose this and turn it into an online ad? And it doesn't quite work well.
It doesn't transfer, one-to-one, like those really kind of rigid, tacky, like the lawyers kind of standing there in their suit and just kind of like reading off a script, pointing at the screen type of thing. Those don't work anymore. I think, and the thing they lack is they're just not authentic, right? I think people today are looking for authenticity. They're looking for just like a natural type of engagement. with the businesses or the firms that they're interested in, right? And yeah, I've had this feedback. I've given this feedback to a lot of the lawyers we work with, where it's like, just be natural. Like, don't wear, a 3-piece suit up there and be all kind of rigid. Like, just talk naturally. Wear what you would normally wear during a business day. Like, most attorneys now are specifically like contingency-based lawyers, PI firms, and so on and so forth. They're working remote. They're wearing what I'm wearing during the workday, right? And obviously, like, if they need to appear in court or they have a deposition or something, they might dress up. But like, for the most part, when they're engaging with their clients, they're wearing something like I'm wearing right now or what you're wearing. So I think just being natural in a market that historically has been very artificial and rigid is a really, really good way to start standing out, if you're a lawyer. So I agree with that. Any other mistakes that you're seeing firms make with their marketing or things that they're missing with their video marketing?
I think the other thing is not having a plan for distribution. Sometimes we'll come up with a whole strategy for, creating a whole bank of content, but unless they have, some sort of plan to get that out there, even if it's organic, even if it's like, hey, we're going to, send out, maybe they don't have a huge budget, but they're going to send this out, to their email list, or they're going to, get this up on their website, or, they're going to put it in their email signature for every email that gets sent out for all the attorneys. They don't have some sort of plan for distributing it. All the hard work that we put into the video is going to go to waste. It's going to sit on the shelf. And I've seen that a couple of times where someone will make a video, will spend all this time, they'll invest a lot of time, invest a lot of money in the video, if they don't know what to do next. So I think, either having a conversation ahead of time, planning it out a little bit. Hey, like, what's a loose plan of like our first 30 days after we finish this video? What are we going to do with it? I think is key, because a video that no one watches is just like a pretty picture on the wall. It doesn't really do too much.
We've seen that pretty consistently, that a firm will invest in like a 2-minute brand video or like a client testimonial. And, when we're onboarding them, we'll ask them, have you guys done anything with video? And they'll be like, oh yeah, we did all this stuff with, this brand video or this testimonial. But then they'll follow that up with, but it didn't really do anything. We didn't really get any, leads from it or anything like that. And then we'll go and look at their YouTube channel where they posted the video and it's gotten like 10 views. And I think, to your point, Dave, the thing that firms are missing is like, producing it is just the first stage, right? That's the first step. The next step is figuring out distribution. And that's where something like advertising, digital advertising specifically, comes in. And it's a great way to push that content out consistently. What we're really kind of talking right now about evergreen video content, right? And that's a term we bring up a lot. Evergreen means this is video content that you can continuously reuse, push out over and over and over again. And that's why I'm typically recommending clients use something like Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising or YouTube advertising to constantly push that message out there for people that have either been to the website or people that are researching different, things like what to do if you get in a car accident, what happens if I get a DUI, like stuff like that, those types of informational searches that people might be typing in their browser before they know that they're ready for an attorney, right? So, distribution is really, really important and often overlooked. So let's say I'm a law firm and I've never done anything with video marketing before. And hypothetically, I have a $10,000 budget. Where do I start? What types of videos do I invest in?
So I thought about this a lot. You threw this question at me, and I've been thinking for, the past hour since you sent it over, like how would I do it? And I think there's two schools of thought with this. It really comes down to, like, at the end of the day, which path are you going to pick comes down to your brand, your personality, how you feel about it. The first way is to create something that is really, really polished and well produced. And for $10,000, you can get, a solid shoot day and probably, 5 to 6 videos on top of that. In those 5 to 6 videos, in my opinion, you're going to do, one really strong brand video where you're involving your key attorneys, and you're talking about the firm. You're getting some nice B-roll of the attorneys walking around your city to make that local effect come to life. You're doing some Q&A type videos. If you can, you're going to bring in 1 or 2 clients to record some testimonials, and then maybe you're going to do like 1 or 2 key attorney profile videos, and those are going to be your, say, 6 to 7 or so videos that you're going to be able to get out of that budget. And if you're a different sort of brand, and you maybe you're like, hey, I want to go with a more modern way of doing this, you could do virtual filming as well. You could do, probably 3 to 4 virtual filming sessions where you record a couple different attorneys doing interviews about their practice, doing interviews about the firm, maybe you do some testimonials, some FAQs, and you could probably, for that budget, get somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 videos out of that. 10,000. You're probably going to double your output, because your filming costs, you're not going to have to bring a crew out. You're not going to have to set up all the lighting and all that stuff that requires from a polished video. I'm not saying one or the other is better. Like, there is a place for both, and if you have more budget, the polished route, definitely for attorneys, I definitely suggest that. But if you don't and you want to get started with the video, like, there are great virtual tools out there, especially like the one that even we're recording on now, where you can record virtually and have a virtual producer come in and produce your video. And it works really, really well. And we've seen a lot of success. Actually, we did a campaign with an attorney last year where we didn't really have time. It was more a time thing than anything else. We have time to get out to the attorney, but we had an hour to go record on virtually, and we were able to produce, I don't even know, it must have been like 20 total videos for this attorney, and they're out there now cranking and producing new leads for that client. So both methods work really well. And we had another attorney where we came in and we scheduled some time in a studio and produced a lot of different polished content, and that was the way they wanted to go, and that worked really well too. So both work. It's just you have to think about how you want to represent your brand as well. Are you okay with a little bit less polished? Let's go with that virtual route. If not, then we're gonna have to stick with the polish.
For the attorneys that want to go the virtual recording route, what does that setup typically look like?
So typically from what we've seen, attorneys out of all of our clients usually have a nice setup in the background. They usually have pretty nice offices, either in their home. They have nice bookshelves behind them. So we'll coach them usually through maybe purchasing some lighting setup. If they have a really bad camera, maybe we'll get them hooked up with a webcam and a microphone, perhaps, if they need it. But it's really simple. At the very basic, you can use your laptop computer's webcam that you probably already use every day. And, maybe we can add on and layer on a couple things just to take the quality up, a couple percentage points from there.
So it's basically just have a decent background, have a decent mic, have a decent camera.
Yeah, and lighting is key. Lighting is definitely key.
Yeah, you don't want to record in the basement.
Definitely don't want to record in the basement. And you definitely want some light in front of you so, you don't look like you're an amateur.
There's a lot of video influencers and stuff that also use a lighting fixture as well. I'm probably not explaining it well, but they use some type of additional artificial lighting to make it look polished as well. Do you typically recommend folks use those, or is natural light the best?
If you can get some good natural light, I recommend it. But even I have one, if you're watching the video, I just turned off my light. Like, my face looks darker now, turned on the light. There's some nice, light right in my face. So it's definitely something that you can use to really change the mood, look, and feel of, how you're looking. So, there's basic 3-point light kits that you can get. Even if you get a simple ring light or an LED light like that works really well. So, you have a couple options there.
And then in terms of, so we kind of talked about the hardware for recording. If a law firm or lawyer is interested in starting to record and they're curious about different software tools, are there any that you'd recommend? I mean, we could recommend what we're using right now.
Yeah, I recommend Riverside because it functions essentially exactly like Zoom. And it's really simple. You can adjust the levels. It's not very expensive to run it. And if you work, if you're doing it and recording it in house, very easy to use. Or if you're working with someone like a virtual type producer, you can use the software to engage with that producer. So definitely recommend and use Riverside almost every single day.
Great. So thanks for kind of going down the rabbit hole with me and getting technical on some things. I want to back out a little further now and talk strategies for law firms, video marketing strategies. Can you, and you might have already kind of talked about this a little bit, and that's okay. Talk to me about some key strategies for creating compelling and engaging video content tailored to a legal audience specifically.
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think this is also one that you and I have definitely debated over the years, beat up this topic a lot. So I think about it in buckets, and I know you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. You got awareness, consideration, decision. And at each phase in the process, you almost want to create what I like to refer to as a virtual salesperson in your bucket. So think awareness is someone's never heard of you before. You're just trying to get your name out there. These are your About Us videos. These are your FAQ videos. It's going to capture hey, someone's searching for personal injury attorney for a slip and fall. It's those long tail, keyword searches. You're going to want to create videos that are going to bring that initial attention to you. Those are a key bucket to make. So that way you're getting your initial search traffic and initial search volume. Then you have your consideration. This is when someone's thinking about working with you, and they might be exploring a few options. So this is where you're going to get into your attorney profile videos. This is where you're going to get into some testimonial videos, things of that nature. And then, there's a little bit of crossover with decision. This is where it gets a little confusing. Someone in the decision phase might want to see a testimonial, but they also might want to see, how does pricing work? How does the fee structure work? How does a contract with the law firm work? What does success look like, with a client, depending on all that. So I think that that decision stage, you could bucket a couple of different things in there. But really you're getting down to the finalization of, effectively think about it like sending them a proposal or your engagement letter to a client. You're explaining what that looks like for a lawyer. I've noticed that actually is probably one of the most neglected categories is the decision category with lawyers, because a lot of times we'll spend a lot of time in the awareness and consideration stage, and then typically law firms in particular will rely a lot on their client intake managers or their whoever answers the phone when someone calls. That's who is really being relied on to do all the decision work. But I think there is definitely a place for putting some of that content out there online, and just letting people know that up front. I think a lot of times people will fear doing that, but at the end of the day, you're going to tell it to them anyway, and you might as well just put it out there online and let people find it and engage with them on their own time.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the awareness, consideration, decision. We talk about funnels all the time, so that's a common topic that gets brought up. I also want to say too, though, this conversation today has been mostly focused on client acquisition, but there's a lot of application for video for firms post the client's been acquired, right? You can use video to walk through onboarding when you bring on a new client and explain, hey, this is what the process looks like. If you're a Social Security disability attorney, hey, this is step 1 through step 10, and this is how long it's going to take, and these are the documents I'm going to need, and we're going to have a touch base every 2 months or 3 months. You can lay that out in a nice 2-minute, 3-minute video, use visuals, and that's one less call you have to make every single new client, right? And then you can also use video to kind of explain, hey, this is what I'm working on, or you could use something like a Loom video to give them an update on their specific case and say, hey, this is the stage we're at. This is, what the next 2 to 3 months looks like. Send that out via, an SMS or an email, something like that. So, if you're a law firm looking to incorporate video into your strategy, don't just be thinking about it from a client acquisition perspective. Think about how to use video to just streamline your business and take some burden off you having to call every single client or explain the same thing over and over and over again. I think there's a lot of good opportunity there for firms to use video in that capacity.
100%. I've seen a lot. What's funny is I've seen that a lot more in the tech industry and like the SaaS industry. They'll use video to streamline their business processes, but I don't see it a lot in the legal industry. And I think the one time I did see it was, I saw one of the attorneys that we work with use it in their chat. It was like, hey, we're going to stick a video in our chat, and right before you chat or right as you chat us, an attorney is like talking to you right away. And it just gives you like a quick introduction to the firm. So if someone's chatting you for the first time, they get like that little quick intro. And I think it was like a brilliant use of video for law firms. I haven't seen it used throughout their business processes. And at the end of the day, attorneys' time is worth a lot of money. So at the end of the day, if you could save those minutes every single day with video and use it to scale your business processes, you're making money. Saving money is making money.
I think another application is like an intake. So, there's a lot of firms out there where, you might speak with an intake person. You might not sign a retainer yet, right? You might be like, I want to shop around a little bit. I know that there's a ton of firms out there that are using like SMS, they're using email, and they're picking up the phone and calling back to make sure that, hey, did I answer all your questions? Why haven't you signed the retainer yet? Stuff like that. I think that's another way. Video is another way for your firm to stand out where, maybe it's sending a 1-minute video via SMS explaining, hey, this is the retainer we sent. This is why we require that you sign this. These are the main points that you need to be aware of in that contract and that retainer. And if you have any questions, let us set up a call with you and one of the attorneys, right? Like, I just think that's such a great way to make it a more personalized experience. Or if you really want to go beyond that, if you could have the intake person send a personalized video and say, hey, so-and-so, I know we spoke on Tuesday. I'm just following up here to see if, you had any questions on the retainer I sent. Could we, get on a call maybe tomorrow? I can answer any of those remaining questions, right? So it's, again, I think a lot of people think of video as like, okay, commercials, social media ads. Like, yes, that is a big application of video, but there are so many other ways to infuse video into your firm beyond just generating leads and clients, right? Awesome. Dave, anything else that you want to touch on in terms of like video for law firms that we didn't talk about today?
I think we covered a lot of the bases, and this past like 30 minutes has been chock full of a bunch of actual stuff that you could take away and into your law firm tomorrow. And
agreed. How can we find you online? Where do we contact you for the listeners that are interested in getting their feet wet with video? How can they contact you?
All my social media is my name, David Feinman. And then for my business, it's viralideamarketing.com or dave@viralideamarketing.com.
Dave, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and answering all our questions. Thanks everyone for listening to the Pareto Legal Podcast. We will see you next week for another episode.